Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to G-Chess. And today on the G-Chess platform, I'm going to be looking at the fourth game of the World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Up until today, every game had been a draw. Little moments here and there, but nothing overly decisive, I would say. So the match has been very, very balanced. And today was no exception. We continue on that trend. Jan Nepomniachtchi, playing with the black pieces, reveals to everybody what he had planned against Magnus Carlsen's 1e4. Of course, Magnus, in his first white game, played d4. Today he played e4. And he showed that he's come very well prepared. And Magnus has got a real difficult challenge on his hands if he's going to win this match. Jan, he's playing confidently, he's playing quickly. His preparation is bulletproof thus far. And we're going to have a look on G-Chess exactly how the game unfolded. And we're going to use all the lovely little features that G-Chess has, of course. It's a new site. My good friend, the Ginger GM, has put a lot of work into making this site such an important tool for all of you budding chess players. So let's see exactly what happened in the game. Okay, so Magnus Carlsen was white, plays the move 1 pawn to e4, and here Jan Nepomniachtchi played the move 1 to e5. So I can toggle the engine here. So you can see the engine evaluation. And at some point as well, we're going to see the other features that G-Chess has. So Jan plays 1 e5, already an important moment to stop here because Jan Nepomniachtchi is most well known as a Sicilian player, but today he played 1 e5. He did play this in the candidates, and of course, if you're a top 10 player, you need to know how to play classical games as well. Magnus played knight f3, and perhaps the first, I want to call it a minor shock, the move knight to f6 was played as well. The Petrov, which of course, is a very, very relevant opening to this particular World Championship because it was the opening of choice by Fabiano Caruana in the previous World Championship, where he held Magnus in every single game with black. So the Petrov is very much, on one hand, an opening that Magnus knows very well, and on the other hand, perhaps a slight surprise, but clearly Jan has done a lot of work on this and believes that the best way to play against Magnus is by neutralizing him with black via openings like the Petrov. Magnus took on e5, pawn to d6, knight back to f3, and you can see here already the hints with the green arrows here. And knight takes e4 was played by Jan Nepomniachtchi. And here Magnus plays the classical main line, which is d4. Of course, a very relevant other main line nowadays is knight c3. But Magnus sticks to the move pawn to d4. And Jan Nepomniachtchi plays the move pawn to d5. Reaching one of the most classical positions, white develops the bishop to d3. And this is the first moment where I would say we have an important fork in the road. Black has tried a few different things here, and Jan decides to go for the now still very trendy variation bishop to d6, which is certainly not the most played move. Bishop to e7, for example, is an extremely popular move, as is the move knight to c6. And the move bishop to d6 is probably the third most played move. So we have nearly an identical position, but things can get very spicy very quickly. Both sides castle, and now white tries to undermine this center, this knight, sorry, on e4 with the move pawn to c4. You can see here that if I now use the buttons in the right-hand corner, I can actually see if there's anything relevant to this. So, for example, if I click on this one here, you can see that according to Chess Publishing, you can see all the different games on the wonderful Chess Publishing site, which I've been using for years, which deals with this line of the Petrov. So that's an amazing little feature. New in Chess articles as well, one of the most important chess websites, New in Chess, talks about this. You can look at, for example, the Week in Chess games as well, if you want to cross-reference it there, if you want to check out that. And as you can see, we can actually leave that on to see exactly what's going on. And ironically, here we can see a game between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Fabiano Caruana from the FTX Crypto Cup, where Jan had the white side of this. So clearly he's very well versed in this and has done a lot of work on this. So I really like that. Encyclopedia is for subscribers only. You can see also you can cross-reference this position with the Ginger GM courses as well, and YouTube videos. So what I really love about GChess is this particular functionality of the site, where you have all of these cross-reference resources. For the moment, I think we're going to go with the Week in Chess. And we'll see the most up-to-date games in this particular line. Okay, so c4, and now Jan Nepomniachtchi plays c6, the most played move, protecting his pawn. And this is where Magnus, as you can see, now plays the third most popular move, which is the move rook e1. The move queen c2 for many years was the most played move. Magnus Carlsen himself, as you can see, played it against Vladimir Kramnik in 2011. But it's been shown that black has got lots of resources here. For example, the move knight a6, intending to come to b4, is a very good move. You can protect the knight with rook e8. This has also been played, although perhaps not as good. Also a funky little move, which is very, very strong, played by MBL and Aronian, as you can see, is the move h6, where white doesn't really get anything after winning a pawn. So after queen takes e4 and now rook e8, believe it or not, the two bishops are fantastic compensation here for black in these positions. For example, after queen d3, you can now play the move bishop g4. And practice has shown, I won't go into the game, but practice has shown that black gets excellent counterplay, and that actually making use of this extra pawn, perhaps there's some bishop takes f3 and queen h4 idea, which makes things difficult. Put the engine on here. You can see that it's not perhaps that impressed with the position. So Magnus instead plays the move rook e1, which has been played by Anand, MBL, and others. Karyakin has also given it a go. And after rook e1, black now did decide to protect the knight with bishop f5. And now the move queen b3 by Magnus Carlsen, hinting that he wants to take this b7 pawn. Black protected it with the move queen to d7. And white tried to complete development with the move knight c3. Also attacking the knight. Black takes on c3, and now white plays the intermezzo move, bishop takes f5. Queen takes f5, which is pretty much the only move. And now the move b takes c3 by Magnus Carlsen. You can see there that the move queen takes b7, a funky looking move, has also been played by Karyakin, played by MBL, played by Fabiano himself against Wang Hao, but it doesn't lead to too much. Black has got a few ideas here, but ultimately, at the moment, white is a piece down. He does win the rook in the corner, but the problem is that the queen queen can get trapped there. For example, after queen d7, which is a very good move, queen takes a8, and now knight e4. You've got to be very careful here not to run into some knight a6 and dropping your queen. There are a few games in this, and this is a line that Jan Nepomniachtchi will know inside out. So instead, after queen takes f5, white played b takes c3. Now the b7 pawn is a target, so Jan defended it with b6. There was a trade on d5, and now the move queen b5 by Magnus Carlsen. These moves have all been played fairly quickly, so they're both well in book. And here, Fabiano Caruana against MBL played the move queen b5. Queen back to d7. And you can see here as well that with the little orange dots, those are indications that you can find this position via these particular sources, right? So if I click on Encyclopedia, you've got to buy a subscription to do it. So get yourself a subscription, you could get that. You can see there the Week in Chess, and also you can see here modernizing the Marshall Petrov, the New in Chess link. You can see exactly this line by Christian Jabo in that New in Chess edition. So wherever you see the orange light on the top right is when you want to click on that, and that's how you cross-reference things. Let's keep on looking at the game. So queen d7, and this is where you can't take on d5, of course, because bishop takes h2 check will win the queen. So here Magnus Carlsen understands he has to trade queens and does so by protecting the queen with the move pawn to a4, which is the main line. Jan takes and takes, and we reach this position right here. Now, as it turns out, black has to be very precise here, because white has actually got quite a lot of pressure down the a file, and this d5 pawn is weak. So you can't just play nonchalant chess here, but Jan plays the best move, which is the move pawn to a5. Still very much in this article covered by Christian Jabo, the Hungarian grandmaster. So black says, well, if I can keep a protected pass pawn on the outside, I'm going to be very happy. And so you have to make a decision here as white. If you take on a6, which has been played a fair amount of times, black can take back on a6. Believe it or not, this position is not that good for white. White has got a backwards pawn on c3, which is offset by the weak pawn on b6. It's very easy to target this pawn. It's very difficult to attack the d5 pawn as well for the moment. White's bishop isn't particularly good. And in all the games played in this particular position, black has more than held his own. So now we get to see exactly what Magnus had up his sleeve, and that is the move knight to h4, which is the first real novelty of the game. And this was played rather quickly. White's idea is simple. He wants to play the move knight f5 and harass his bishop. In fact, black simply can't allow that. For example, after knight d7, knight f5, the position is already critical for black, because if you move the bishop, knight e7 check will win the pawn. So after knight h4, black is forced to protect that square with g6. And we now see the next idea by Magnus Carlsen, which is to play the move pawn to g4. A computer move, but actually one that's very logical, because here white gives luft for his king, so he doesn't have to worry about back rank mates. He also gives the square for this knight to come back. We'll see how that's important in a moment, as well as preventing any potential f5 by black. So this is a nice space gaining move. Nepomniachtchi played knight d7, and now Magnus Carlsen did in fact retreat immediately with knight g2, offering perhaps to play the move bishop f4 on the next, where finally from the f4 position this pawn on d5 will be able to be attacked. In fact, that's what happened, but Jan counterattacked quickly with rook fc8. This was an excellent move, because now after bishop f4, Jan was able to trade a pair of pieces, take the pawn on c3, and reach his position after knight takes d5. And it's in this position here that Jan found a critical good move, which is the move rook to d3. Hitting the d4 pawn, one of the best moves in the position. Magnus now got very active with the move rook e7. And Jan played, again, the critical and only move, actually, the move knight f8. It's important to point out that you can't defend this knight with rook d8, because after rook takes d7, rook takes d7, knight f6 check is a nasty fork, and you win a piece. So knight f8 is actually the only move, but it's a good move. And it was around here, obviously I watched the game live, that I was starting to understand that I think Magnus has got a big issue today in winning this position. He can't take on b6 because rook b8 is a fairly easy simplification. Knight d5, rook takes b5 only helps black, simplifying and activating the rook. So Magnus had to try the move knight to f6 check, which is what he did. King to g7. Should be pointed out that king to h8 is a blunder, because after rook takes f7, certainly some Arabian mating nets start to appear. For example, rook takes d4, and now let's say rook c1. Aiming for rook c7, and black can lose. For example, after a4, rook c7, a3, you run into the famous Arabian mate like so. Very important pattern, checkmating pattern for all of you guys to remember. So after knight f6, black absolutely has to go king g7. And now, if this were a sort of normal tournament game, I would expect knight e8 check, king g8, and a repetition. Magnus, however, felt like he needed to try something here, but he didn't get very far. He tried the move d5. Black, of course, can't take on account of knight f6 check, picking up the rook. And after d5, therefore, Jan did what you're supposed to do, which is push past pawns, especially with a rook behind it. So a4, Magnus gave the check, king to g7, and now g5 by Magnus. So we see an attempt by Magnus, and he is trying to win here. So if black is a little nonchalant, let's say black plays a move like rook a5, this would be a terrible move, because now white could now go rook c1, and the idea is now to come in via f7 again, and the position looks toast. Rook takes b5, rook c7, and you're getting mated here as black. So you can't do that. So after g5, Jan played the correct move a3, and unfortunately for white, you still can't pull off a magic, let's say rook c1, because after a2, rook c7, it looks as though you're going for the brilliancy prize, allowing black to make a queen. If it were your move here, you would take, but unfortunately black has at least got the move queen takes f6, giving up the queen for a piece, but black does not get mated and emerges with an extra piece, so that's no good. So on rook c1, you get in big trouble as white. Of course, Magnus wasn't going to do that. And in fact, after a3, Magnus now understood that with the pawn so advanced, with no real ideas to make something work in this position, that he would go for a perpetual check, and that's what happened. It's too dangerous for black to go to h8 because f7 is weak, and you can fall into some other mating nets, and the game ended after knight e8 check, king g8, knight f6 check. Here, Jan Nepomniachtchi stopped the clock, said after king g7 it's threefold. Magnus agreed, and they made a draw. And as I say, what I really like about this platform, apart from the fact that it's very slick, so the layout is very slick, you've obviously got your engine analysis, is this ability to cross-reference across a number of different platforms. Chess publishing, Chessable short and sweet. So for example, if you're a big fan of Chessable, you can cross-reference it with the short and sweet courses. The Week in Chess, online sites as well, so all of the chess.com or leechess.org games, you can cross-reference it. Encyclopedia when you're a subscriber, the Ginger GM courses, even YouTube. There is no other platform that allows you to cross-reference a position with so many different sources. It's a kind of one-stop shop, integrated all into one thing. It's beautiful, it's slick, and I'm going to be using GChess a lot moving forward. Looking forward to getting my subscription, and yeah, as you can see, I've got 20 searches left here for free. Yeah, that was the game. That is gchess.com. Make sure you get a subscription. It's well worth it. And you can do that by clicking on this little subscribe for full access thing here. You can see what the premium memberships are, $9.99 per month or $99 per year. An amazing resource, bang for your buck, everything you want. All right, that was the Magnus Carlsen game. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. Of course, Game 5 tomorrow. I'll be covering that game as well for GChess, so make sure you check that out. And that is it for me for today. See you tomorrow for Game 5. Looking forward to it.